2030 African Data Infrastructures and Stakeholder Forum. My name is Lucy Scott from the Ocean Info Hub project, and I'll be taking us through the program today. As a little background, the Data Infrastructures and Stakeholders Forum forms part of the implementation of the Joint Pilot Action for the All-Atlantic Cooperation for Ocean Research and Innovations Work Package 5, Common Standards for Data and Information Sharing. AAODS 2030 stands for the All-Atlantic Ocean Data Enterprise 2030, and this is a side event of the All-Atlantic Ocean Research Alliance 2022 Forum, co-hosted by the United States and Brazil. This is hosted in collaboration with the European Commission over 2 events between May and July of this year, and more information is available on the website, as I'm sure you know. So objectives of this forum are to showcase marine data participation and inclusion in the All-Atlantic Ocean data space. Secondly, to support the development of a natural, social, scientific, and humanistic transatlantic ocean data space with historical, current, and future ocean data, and to define a minimum set of ocean metadata standards and formats to be used by local, regional, and national initiatives in the Atlantic Basin. This is day 1 of the 2-day meeting, during which we will hear from 6 specialists, setting the scene for the African marine data space, followed by 2 specialists on marine data sharing. We'll also have some time for Q&A at the end of the session. Day 2 will be tomorrow, and that will be in more of a workshop format, and with the aim of producing a draft 0 version of the roadmap for the implementation of the All-Atlantic Ocean data space. So thank you. A quick reminder to participants is that I think most of the mics have been muted. Just interruptedly. If anyone would like to contribute a question or an observation, please feel free to use the chat function. This will also help us to sort some questions if there are a lot while the speakers are talking. And this will also help towards the end, as we don't have a lot of time for Q&A. The recording of the meeting will be shared afterwards, and I think it's also available on YouTube, but a link will be made available in due course. And we'd like to encourage participation as much as possible. As speakers, you each have a maximum of 9 minutes to speak. Please do keep to the allotted time to allow for questions at the end of each part. Now, to start us off, I'd like to introduce Dr. Mikko Odido, Data Management Scientist from the West African Science Service Center on Climate Change and Adapted Land Use, to give us the first talk. Dr. Odido, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Lucy. Good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be here. My name again is Mikko Odido. I'm in charge of data management infrastructure in WASCAL. And today I would like to quickly just talk about data management and the activities we are doing at Competence Center in Ouagadougou. So let me quickly, I do not put my camera on because I'm not sure you can see me. I'm in a part of the hotel where the light is not really good, but maybe you can see me. So this quickly to introduce WASCAL. We are based in both Ghana and Burkina Faso, but we are a regional center on climate change and adapted land use. We are covering 11 member countries in West Africa. And everywhere you can see that we are implementing some projects from where we are collecting data and therefore knowledge and implementing services to help the people deal with climate change. Our center is covering a lot of things, and maybe a little part of it is about marine data. Because of Cape Verde, we have a school there on marine sciences. Then we are also collecting data from them, from the students and scientists working at this place. I wanted to show this, but since I have only 9 minutes, I will skip what is data to quickly go to the most important part of the presentation. I assume that everyone here knows what is the data. But I would like to insist on the importance of metadata because sometimes we talk about it, but we do not measure the importance of metadata. So usually I say that data is like this one. The system is stuck. Okay. So if you take a data at a raw place, it's like this. It's a box. You can tell what is it, what does it contain. And then you need more information which can tell you what is the data exactly containing. So it's like when you go to a market, you would like to buy something. Most of the time, you take your time to look at what kind of product you're buying, reading the specifications. So these are the metadata. And then why do we need data? Because also we used to say data, but we forgot sometimes to remind people how important is data. Most when it comes to climate change in our domain, also in any kind of science, including marine sciences, where you need data to be able to talk about the marine situation itself. So we need data to inform people about what we are doing. And also, we need data to plan. If you are informed, you may use the data to plan something. My system is okay. And mostly for researchers, because Pascal is also in research, and I think that most of us also today are invest in research, you need data to investigate, to conduct your research. Without data, I can say it will be really difficult for anyone to conduct a research. And then, of course, you need data to educate people. At Pascal, we have at least 12 graduate schools composed of PhD schools and master schools where we are educating people about climate change itself, climate change in economy, also climate change in water resources, climate change and renewable energy, climate change and human habitat, and all these aspects related to climate change are important. And we need, of course, data also to educate people about all these topics. And at Wascal, we are developing services, climate services, to be able to assist the population that are living every day with the damage from climate change. So we need to develop services from the data to be able to adapt to technology, to be able to support decision makers. And this is the next point. We need data to drive policy. You cannot go to a policymaker and tell him that you need to take this decision without showing him the data. On what basis you tell me that I need to take this decision? And this is important also that we know that our data is helping a lot, and mostly is helping to improve human beings' life, to save even life. We used to say at Pascal that without data, it's very difficult to see what you are doing. And that's why at Pascal, we have developed a very robust infrastructure to deal with the data management. Let me skip all these things to be able to fit in my 9 minutes. So when we talk about data, we talk about data management. It's like your money, it's like your assets at home. If we do not take care of them, they are worthless. But if you take the time to organize them well, to describe them well, to give a visibility to them, then you gain, you can see the value of your money or value of your assets. And here I would like to recall also what is data management is about. So data management is about data governance. It's really important. Don't know why my keyboards. Okay, it's about data availability, data formatting and documentation, data preservation, data quality, of course. It's also about data. Data sharing is important, that we do not reinvent the wheel every time we need data to go on the field and collect them. While already some institution has already collected the data, we need to go through agreements to share the data and also save time, money, and lives. Data security, of course, data visibility, and most importantly, data valuation. So this is what we believe at WASCAL, that data management should be used. Most of the time when you see people talking about data management, it's not clearly defined what we need to do. We are trying at our site here to build step-by-step information to provide to the users and even to the scientists why we need data and why we need the data to be managed appropriately. And we are doing this through what we call WADI, the WASCAL Data Infrastructure, which is a set of infrastructures helping us at WASCAL and in the region to collect the data, disseminate them through also management and other things. I'm speeding up, sorry for the speed, but I need to fit in these minutes. So what is composing our WADI? We have at the top the data management department, which I'm coordinating, and we have then 4 components by now, but we hope to extend them soon to other components. We have the first component, which is the observatory networks, from which we are collecting the data on ground. We are pre-processing them to check errors, the first step of quality, and then the data needs to be stored, to be managed, and to be published through dissemination means. So we have another component we call WADI-REP, where we are developing the databases, the data repositories, the data platforms, portals, and also applications about the data. I will show quickly some of the applications we are developing. And I don't, okay. So we have also, when we start having a lot of information, a lot of data together, you need a capacity, a computation capacity to be able to process the data when it comes to big data. Most importantly, when it comes to climate data, we need to run models, we need to do simulations. So at WASCAL, thankfully, we have through our main funder, BMBF, which is the German Minister of Education, Higher Education, we have been able to purchase a high-performance computing system, which enables us to run this computational power. And then, of course, when we talk about climate, we also talk about geolocated data. So we also have a dedicated laboratory, we call it GIS Lab, where we are working on geospatial aspect of the data, and also where we are dealing with remote sensing data to complement the on-ground data collected from the observatory networks, because you cannot have to look at the variables on the ground. So we complement the data on the ground from the data from satellites. And you see also later that we have in this laboratory a set of drones we are using to collect the data. Of course, we are developing through this WADI a set of IT and data services to assist the scientists. We call WRAP2 is for WASCAL Research Action Plan, which is driving WASCAL research. So quickly, these are a set of WASCAL observatory networks. We can see some of them. WASCAL has distributed recently 50 automatic weather stations to member countries, which are 10. Now we have, which were 10 at that time, now we have 11 of them. So each country has benefited from some equipment for WASCAL to assist them. And we think that next batches will follow up with more equipment so that we can step by step cover the needs for collecting on-field data. These are the distribution of the automatic hydro sensors WASCAL has started this year to distribute to member countries. Because one part you have the weather and the other part you have a hydrological resources you need to deal with. And this includes also sometimes the marine sciences, but as I said, we are covering a lot of subjects, including marine sciences. So this is a first data report that I'm showing to you. This is a scientific data platform where researchers are publishing their data, and where students also are publishing their data. If they're hosting their data, they can put the data on hold under embargo until they publish, and then we make the data open to anyone to come and download. So the data are collected from, you can see the 10 countries, from the 12 schools, graduate schools, from the scientists in the member countries, and they're invited to upload the data to WADUREP, which stands for WASCAL Data Repository and Platforms, and believe that because we don't want to have any loss of the data, so immediately we ask the scientists to share the data with us through different means, from using OneDrive immediately to safeguard the data, to upload the data itself to this platform, but we want to have them keep the data in security with any loss, without any loss, and also to be sure that the data can be long preserved, because since it is an institutional data platform, we think that it will stay longer than a personal computer or a personal external drive. Here is a platform where we are having the automatic weather stations. You can click on them and have the information about the current data, and also apply for downloading the past data. I don't know how much time I still have. This is a climate service platform we are developing to provide weather from the countries. As you can see, this is using a mashup of applications. We have windy, for instance. We also are using open weather data, and we are also, in fact, developing our own other add-ons to make this working. Sorry. So during the COVID-19 outbreak, also we developed a COVID-19 application, which was mainly focusing on the climate relationship with COVID-19. Or let me recast it. Do we have any relationship we can establish between COVID-19 cases and the climate value, by showing side by side the information about COVID-19 cases, the deaths, the recovery, and for each date, what were the climate variables? What were, for example, related humidity? What was the temperature, the air quality, the ozone, and other things like this? So we still have this application, and hope that one day we can bring in a scientist, expert in medicine, to help us go through the data itself and reveal the knowledge behind it. And by the same time, now we are thinking about developing a climate health data visualization platform, where we're going to have all, all data about climate variables against then the data from health, like malaria, you know that it can be related to climate change or to weather, like COVID-19 that you suspect that is related to it, and other diseases we may also be linked to climate change or climate or weather. So this is to quickly show you the HPC, the high performance computing I was talking about.
Thank you. If you could perhaps start wrapping up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll then stop after this one. This is the drone service we would like to develop through the drones we have. And then I think I will stop here. And thank you for listening to me. I hope that at least you will get some insight for this presentation. I'm looking forward to your questions and comments. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the excellent presentation, for giving us perspectives on WASCAL activities, and particularly for Ghana and Burkina Faso and neighboring countries. and especially for reminding us of the critical importance of metadata. Thank you. We'll move on to the next presenter, who's Chikana Rasehlomi. He's a marine data and information manager at the National Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment, Oceans and Coasts Branch, South Africa. He is also an AAODS AFROBIS node and data manager for the Sub-Saharan African node of the Ocean Biodiversity Information System, OBIS. So Chikana, over to you.
Thank you so much, Lucy, for the introduction. Colleagues, my apologies. I'm going to be switching off my video because of the bandwidth. However, I hope you can see my presentation. As Lucy has already alluded to, I am Tsikana Rasehlomi. I do represent the South African Marine Information Management System, as well as the AFROBIS node, which is the Sub-Saharan node for the OBIS. And I reside at the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, based at the Cape Town city of South Africa. So in terms of MIMS, MIMS is an institutional data repository for coastal and marine data set in South Africa. In terms of its own conceptual framework, MIMS is there to ingest all the in situ, ex situ, and model data. And it's a component of OSINTs, which deals with the development of products, of ocean products. In South Africa, we term them decision tools that are used by a wide variety of users, be it shipping, be it other fisheries or fisheries management and conservation managers. So for the purpose of time, the link is there for those who want to visit MEMS, as well as visit the OSIM component of MEMS. So MEMS is also hosting SADCO, which is one of the oldest and longest data repository for the Southern African region in terms of oceanography. And we also host AFROBIS, as I've already indicated. So by that extend our responsibility to receiving and archiving data for both regional and international institutions, and making sure that the metadata is available and the data that we collect is compliant of the FAIR principle, and we provide that in a timely manner. In terms of the MEMS, MEMS does have an online catalog, which it's shown there. And one point that I want to mention is that MEMS does ingest large data set, which include the model output. And this is irrespective of the format. And it does have a single entry point, which provide high quality of data in a delayed and near real-time mode. We make sure that the data is available, it's freely available, and we provide an end-to-end data management while providing discovery, extraction, and citation of the data set. In terms of the user support, to streamline user support and requests from our users, we have MEMS has got an online user support via the help desk, and it uses a ticketing system which provides or assign a unique ticket ID on with which the users can use to track progress and responses of their request. It also allows the users to submit their data through the MEMS portal, or request the data through the portal. We also have a wiki page, which really details information on how MEMS was developed and what sort of data they can find and how they can submit the data, and the data policies which we have that is used to sharing on via the MEMS. And this wiki page also provides a wide variety of information relating to MEMS and what type of marine and coastal data they can find, and where data is being applied in terms of the products that comes from MEMS. They can use the wiki page to look at that information. Where do we get all this data? As indicated in the first slide, MEMS ingest data from satellites, from in situ and model output. But the whole data comes from the three section, being the blue ocean, which mainly deals with ocean physics and hydrodynamics, and the green ocean, which deals with biogeochemistry, and the white ocean, which deals with the Antarctic sea ice dynamics. So we've got measurements and observation from the Antarctic side, be it the marginal ice zone. And some of the data comes from the research vessels. We also have a wide array of moorings around the coastline that provide this data. And this data is obviously ingested in near real time, and we make it available. We also have biological data, which comes from our coast and also in some of the sub-Antarctic islands, be it the Prince Edward Islands and the Tristan da Cunha and the Gulf Islands. So we do have biological data, and this biological data is prepared and packaged in such a way that it can be harvested by international data services such as the GBIF or the Global Biogeographic Information Facility and the AAODS, and we follow the Darwin core principles to make sure that our data can be shared with the international community. I've also prepared one slide to take you through our portal. I hope this will run as planned. Okay, so this is our landing page. I don't know if, Lucy, please, can you confirm if our colleagues can see this the slide?
I can't see, I can just see the URL on your presentation.
So it doesn't.
That's all I can see.
Oh, okay.
I think you have to stop sharing and then you have to share the other window.
Oh, my apologies. Okay. Yes, can you see it now?
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. All right, this is the landing page for Marine Information System. If one scroll down, it allows, there's a catalog, it allows one to look at the data or explore the data using instruments. You can use the instrument or the research vessel name and just to search the data. If there's data that one needs, you can go through here. And it also allows one to search for the data and search the SATCO data, which we host. And if there's any support that one needs, they can go here and request the data or submit the data, which has to go through all the data curation processes. We do have an online support that will assist with that. And if there's any documentation regarding the development of MEMS and our data policies, our users can come here to look at that policy, because we do have to mention that MEMS does host some of the sensitive data which are embargoed, or otherwise all the data are freely available. So we do have policies on the embargo of the data and the open sharing of the data. So the users can come to this web portal and follow that. And if they need to contact our data curation, there is help there where they can get online support on MEMS. In a nutshell, and given the time that was allocated for this, and if there's any other question, I'm here to answer all the questions relating to South African's marine information management system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chikana. And thanks for the outline and conceptual framework of MIMS and OSIMs, and showing how data, models, and knowledge products are related, as well as for the demo. I can see some questions coming in the chat, but we're going to wait until the end of the first session of speakers, and then we'll raise those questions. So next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Claire Davis-Reddy from the South African Earth Observation Network, Data Science Team Lead at the Sion Ulwazi node. Over to you, Claire.
Thank you. Just going to share my screen. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the SAON data services and the data management services that we have. So the South African Environmental Observation Network, SAON, is part of the South Africa's National Research Foundation, and it is dedicated to long-term observations in terms of understanding what's happening with global change across terrestrial and marine environments. All of our observations provide inputs into models, model parameterization, understanding how ecosystems are changing over time, but also inputs it into what Chikana mentioned, what we refer to as our data decision-making tools. SAON itself has 7 nodes all across South Africa, focusing either terrestrial or marine environments, and as well as the Ulwazi node. So the Ulwazi node is the data information and management sort of hub or center of SAON, and our focus is on the data pipeline. How do we bring data in from in-situ observations or sea-based observations, as well as our research infrastructures, and turn that into data that is usable for decision making. So we have a range of sites, instruments, infrastructure, models across marine and terrestrial environments. So this map just provides an indication of where we are monitoring ecosystems across South Africa, as well as our oceans, but also all the way into Antarctica with our one of our research infrastructures, which is SAPRI. All of these research observations and data that we get for them provide use as input for models, model parameterization, and also the process of representation of our environment in these models. I've mentioned the research infrastructure. So SAON manages 3 research infrastructures, and this is part of South Africa's research infrastructure roadmap. So the FTION, that focuses on terrestrial and freshwater environments. And we've got SMACRI, which is focusing on marine, shallow marine and coastal. And then we've got our new research infrastructure, SAPRI, which is focusing on the polar research infrastructure, all the way from South Africa, all the way down to Antarctica. Some examples of the kind of information we are collecting from all of our instruments. So this is 11 years of evidence of ocean warming in the Algoa Bay, which is in a bay in South Africa, Port Elizabeth in South Africa. And we can see from this data that we have evidence of the ocean warming. Other examples of long-term environmental data for decision making, and this is kind of encompasses our entire data pipeline. So we have on-site data acquisition. So this is a terrestrial example. So we have instruments on the field collecting data. Then we have data processing, analysis, and modeling components. And then from there, we then produce open data sets and open data products, which are then published, for example, through DataCite or DataCite and SAON's own catalog. Then they could be published through journal publications. And then also we have dashboards, a variety of front-end user systems where you can actually interrogate the data and have a look at it using dashboards. A marine example is the benthic trawl experiment. So this is an offshore monitoring experiment to assess the impact of trawl fishing on in sand habitat. So this is just some of the areas across the South African coastline which are being monitored. So our teams go out on the trawl vessels and collect a lot of information and data to understand the hake industry in South Africa. So now we have all of this data coming in. We've got a lot of instruments measuring a lot of different ecosystem processes across South Africa. So a key part is that SAON's developed infrastructure and open data management systems to support all of this data in terms of publication, metadata standards, the discovery, this dissemination, and then the visualization through dashboards or other front-end tools of both marine and terrestrial observation data. So I want to talk a little bit about our data management systems that we've put in place in SAON. So we have developed what we've called an open data platform. So this open data platform hosts and develops open data systems and services, which are distributed what we call on an open data platform, which I refer to as an ODP. All of this infrastructure is standardized, has standardized metadata and discovery tools, and focuses primarily on ensuring that we meet the requirements of the FAIR principles. So making sure that it's findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. So I think our first presenter spoke a lot about metadata, and standardized metadata for any kind of data that we are collecting is so vital in order to make sure that we can share and disseminate all of the data that we're collecting. And our open data platform allows for the publication, discovery, and dissemination of all the data that we collect across South Africa and now all the way to the Antarctic. We also provide access to metadata, data, and digital content. So a lot of our content might actually be pictures of fish, which we also make available. And at the moment, we have over 3,500 open access data sets on our catalog. So in terms of our architecture, how did we actually build up the system? What does it actually look like? So I know these diagrams will get a bit technical, but I won't get into too much detail in terms of this. This slide just talks to the kind of data sets and data families that we have in our open data platform. So we have individual data sets, in situ instruments. We also rely on remote sensing and model outputs. The data families we cover, we have metadata compliant for spatial data, multi-dimensional data, time series, and then also your files, your pictures, your images, some time series, even videos. Then the metadata schemas, DataCite and SANS 1878. That's primarily what we focus on, but we do have options to use other data standards. Then in terms of services, we use a range of different data services to serve out our data on all of our front-end applications, which include a data catalog, a various range of data visualization and dashboard tools, as well as applications where you can download and subset data. For a project, we developed a plugin for QGIS. So that's an option of how people can access the data and subset it within a QGIS environment. This is just overall what our architecture and our components actually look like and how we serve our end users, mostly in terms of our catalog, our atlases, our data books, but also through our DOIs, our data site, and the catalog where you can get and download the data. And then inside all of our sort of our architecture, our metadata management, our data curation tools, all of our services to serve out the spatial data, multidimensional data, and our objects, and then to to actually render that to the front end in terms of things like catalogs. Then we use a range of different technologies and components to build up SAON's data infrastructure. These are just some examples of the technologies that we do use. Primarily, our data sits with PostGIS databases. We've also got NetCDDFs, and we have a Threads data server. We also have GeoServer, Postgres databases, Nextcloud, and all of the issuing of DOIs for DataSite. And then just to touch a little bit on our open data catalog, which you're welcome to visit. I've put the URLs in the presentation. I'll also share them in the chat. So this is our open data catalog, where you're able to search any term or keyword that you might be interested in. So this is all of our marine and our terrestrial data. This, for example, I've just put in SDGs. It's to focus on, what data do we have to measure our SDGs, and you can find data using that keyword, for example, or you can type in marine and see what data comes up. And we're continuously publishing data to this catalog. And all of the data that's available in MIMS is also available in our catalog as well, showing that how important interoperability is for these data systems. And this is just a preview of our atlas capability within our catalog, where you can add layers and you can sort of interrogate and have a look and investigate those layers. And then you also then can download them if you feel that they're of interest to you. And then just a last note of opportunities for collaboration. It's always important in these forums to think about how better we can work together. So we as SAON are very much focused on open access for impact. How do we influence decision making and use data to drive decisions? We need to be more of a promotion of African science and data in terms of international, much around data management, data infrastructure, but is that being put out there into the international field? These sorts of platforms that we've all discussed are so important for developing science, technical and data science capacity. And we've also we've spoken even about MIMS and other initiatives. There are so many initiatives out there that create data, collect data. So having a system that's interoperable where you can share and harvest data from is very important. And that's all from me. And you can visit those two websites to find out more about SAON or to have a look at our catalog. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire, for that great overview of SAON's 7 nodes, data management structures and architecture, and the data pipeline from collections to products. Next, I'd like to introduce Pericles Silver, who graduated in marine biology from the Algarve University and then pursued postgraduate studies in ocean observation at the Bermuda Institute for Ocean Sciences. Since 2007, he's been working as a site manager in the Cape Verde Ocean Observatory, and he will talk about an overview of MR and the Fishery Statistics Unit. Over to you, Pericles. I think you're still on mute. If you could unmute and share your screen.
Hello, do you hear me now?
Yes, thank you very much.
Oh, sorry, what I was saying that I did realize that most of people are talking about climate data. So if you don't mind, I will present some few slides about what we do related to climate data. At the beginning, I thought it was more about IMAR. I am a technician from IMAR, but I'm working on the Cape Verde Ocean Observatory since the beginning. So I didn't follow up because I had some free days until yesterday. So if you don't mind, I would say some words on that part, and what are the infrastructure related to climate change we have here. It's okay? Do you hear me?
Yes, thanks very much. Please go ahead.
Okay, so we are here in Cabo Verde. We are, I will share my screen, okay? With climate change since 2006, when we start, that was a research vessel passing by, Meteor, some of you. So they had a problem with the vessel, so they did some Google research, and then they saw Cape Verde in the map. So this was in 2002. 2 years later, we did a workshop here when they did applications for UE to start 2 observatories here at Cabo Verde, because we had the good conditions for both political stability and for observation. So what they do at by then, we installed, instead of 1 observatory, 2 observatory. Ocean Observatory, which is 55 miles northeast of island of São Vicente. You can see here, it's a deep ocean observatory, and a atmospheric observatory in the island downward the ocean observatory. So here at the IMAR, we do together with Geomar, we do management of the ocean observatory, and then the Institute of Meteorology does the part of the ocean observatory. So both studies can be done in this area. So our observatory, it's based on a mooring program by Geomar that is collecting data since the beginning of 2006. So we collect data from temperature and PCO2, but also we have a ship-based program with our small research vessel. But it is interrupted because we have lots of problems with this vessel. It's old vessels. So since 2015, we don't do the part of our ship program, but we try to compensate it with other vessels passing by that we call ships of opportunity, that we whenever they pass, we ask them to do some CTD cast around our observatory. So they should collect more or less the same parameters that we collect for the mooring. It's like temperature, salinity, oxygen, inorganic carbon, nutrients, fluorescence, turbidity, chlorophyll, lights, and zooplankton. So with the cooperation of Germany, we also have some programs which is based on glider programs, like gliders, and also wave gliders that sometimes we do campaigns, and also based on field campaigns. Here in this map, what you see, it's more or less all the campaigns we had through all these years since 2006. You see there is huge gaps in between. So whenever we can, we try to collect some data to, if somebody wants, they can ask this data. We are a bit far away from the other countries when it's talking about data management. It's something we have to put some strong power for the future. And what we have related to this, it's a data portal from Geomar, where they store all this data from these campaigns and also from the mooring. So they could write an email to the coordinator, which is Björn Fiedler, and ask the data we have related to this. Okay, saying that we are, like I said, a bit ahead of other, far away from the other countries. So I would like just to say some words on the Ocean Science Center that we built, that was inaugurated in 2017. It's more an infrastructure in the area for people that can come and do science. We have laboratories, we have workshops and maintenance halls, guest office with good internet connections, storage and technical facilities. We have -80, -40, and -20, and also we produce here liquid nitrogen. One of the things we are working right now, and at the moment, we are together with Vascal and University of Atlantic, Technical University of the Atlantic. Students from the Vascal master program, they come here and they do the works. Data that could do part of the thesis works in here. That's it, more or less, what I can say to you. What we have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for that overview of the Cape Verde Ocean Observatory, ships, mooring, gliders, and other expeditions and data management. Then to our next presentation, we'll hear from Carmen dos Santos from the University of Namib, Angola. If Carmen's with us, please go ahead. If she's not with us, then could I ask Pericles to perhaps stop sharing?
Yes, in a moment.
Your screen. Great.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry.
Great, no problem. And then we'll go on ahead to Juliet Igbo from the Nigerian Institute for Oceanography and Marine Research. And then in the meantime, I just encourage further questions to be that you'd like to add to the discussion, and we can go to them at the end of the session. So over to Juliet.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity you have given me to talk about how my institute, the Institute for Oceanography and Marine Research, generate data, what we do. I don't know, I want to share my screen. Yeah. So my name is, as you said, Juliet Igbo. I work with the Nigerian Institute for Oceanography and Marine Research activities in the institute. Nigeria is the only oceanographic institute in Nigeria, and our vision is to become a world-class center of excellence in marine science. While we try, we came to the national development goals of food security, poverty reduction, and marine environment cleanliness and sustainability. Our mission is to aspire as a national fisheries and oceanography center of excellence, with using dedicated research scientists to collect, analyze, and provide scientific data and information for the development of scientific products.
Julie, if possible,
yeah, I will
change to presentation mode. That would make your slides.
Okay, I should. Okay, you want my slide to be bigger? I'm sorry. Let me see what I will do. Can you find it?
It should be at the bottom, just to the left of that slide.
That's what I'm looking at. Yeah, I'm trying to see. But I can't see it. I can't find it. I don't know.
If you go right to the bottom of your screen and you go quite far to the right,
Right,
you'll find it there.
I'm trying to see. Can't find it.
Yeah, Juliet, you can press F5. F5.
F5, just F5.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think we should press it. Yeah.
F5. I can't even see F5. Can I press escape?
Okay. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Is it showing? It's not.
Press.
I'm trying to see.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see where it says comments at the bottom of your screen?
Yeah, press shift F5, shift F5, shift F5.
F5.
Yes.
F5.
Shift and F5, yes.
Great.
I think I've done it. Yeah. So as I was saying, yeah, we have a mandate of rational exploitation of marine resources and conservation for sustainable development of healthy marine environments. In our institute, we have about 12 research scientists for the achievement of our goals and mandates. And the 12 research departments include biological oceanography, aquaculture, marine meteorology. We have fishing technology and extension services, mentioned but a few. In aquaculture, we have some research activities like in aquaculture, we have genetic improvement as a goal of brackish and marine water aquaculture species. And we also develop mass production techniques for fingerlings of Clarias gariapinis, which is a commercial fish species in Nigeria. For biological oceanography, we have a mandate of studying the physiochemical characteristics of Nigerian coastal waters, as well as study of occurrence and distribution of major critical contaminants in the Nigerian coastal ecosystem. For biotechnology departments, we do genetic characterization of marine and brackish water culturable fish species, including the development of improved strains of fish species culture. The fishing technology do fabricate ecosystem-friendly gears like the turtle excluder device in order to facilitate the recertification of Nigeria for shrimp export to the US and the UK. We also fabricate bycatch reduction device. And Nigeria and NEOMA in collaboration with the FAO have also designed and produced multi-purpose shallow draft mechanized fishing vessel. This is a picture of the third fabricated in Nigeria. Our fishing technology department also design and fabricate patented fish smoking kins with a capacity of 250 kg of fish, as well as pega and sardinella fish species. For marine geology, geophysics departments, we studied bathymetry. We have done bathymetric charting of nearshore Victoria Island, as well as Lagos Lagoon, Benin, and the Escrobius rivers in Nigeria. We have also produced a digitized map of the Nigerian coastal zone, as well as identified and evaluated the heavy mineral potential in the Nigeria coastal environment. For marine biology, we have provided scientific basis for Sea Fisheries Act of 2011 in Nigeria, and confirmed the abundance of tuna, the commercial abundance of tuna in the Nigerian EEZ, as well as identify key species of demersal resources and deeper water resources. For the physical and chemical oceanography departments, we have a research mandate of researching into the physical and chemical characteristics of the Nigerian territorial waters, and the high seas, as well as monitoring and analyzing the effect of pollution on the health of the Nigerian coastal system and its prevention. For Economics and Statistics Department, we have also established a fisheries data bank, as well as studied the socio-economic status of artisanal fisheries. Then our extension services have also provided technical trainings for the fisher folks in Nigeria, to other operators and fish processors, as well as produce documentaries on the research activities of Nigeria that have been aired in televisions. The Marine Meteorology Department also forecasts and predicts tidal data, wave data, and study the topography of the seabeds and deposits on or under the sea in Nigeria. So for these our research activities, we have facilities that help us to carry them out, such as the Marine Shrimp Hatchery. We have research laboratories in all departments, as well as a central laboratory that analyzes data. We also have fish scanning, as well as the tide gauge for tide monitoring. We also have fish meal plants, extruders that produce the floating and sinking fish for aquaculture. We also have a boat to enable us to go for field trips, as well as 2 vessels, seaworthy 2 vessels that we use to monitor the Nigerian coastal ecosystem. Data sharing, yes. From all our research activities, we are able to get biological data, chemical data, physical data, meteorological data, and other forms of types of data, marine data. And these data should make them known globally through the ocean dock. I want to tell you that Nigerian Institute for Oceanography and Marine Research is a National Information Center, or the African National Information Center in Nigeria. And most of our publications are deposited in Ocean Dock. Our technical papers are also online, annual reports, and personal publications, books, and libraries. So we have some challenges too. Our challenges mostly number one, internet facilities. Most of our internet facilities are not working well. Yes, we also have the need to train experts in data management, and we also need funding for carrying out in-depth researches, as well as capacity building to train our data managers. Way forward, how do we improve on what we already have? We intend in the Institute to do more integration of all available database by making use of recent developments in technology to create a data and information base, a more robust data and information base, as well as make more of our publications to be more electronic, and train more our data managers, and also better data management. And we're open to collaboration and intend to standardize our data. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much for that presentation on the Nigerian Institute for Oceanography and Marine Research, activities, data management, and various applications, as well as some current challenges. Thanks very much. So we have reached the end of part 1, And so now I'd like to encourage anyone with any further questions to put them into the chat. But as it is, we have 2 questions that we can go to now, and they're directed at our first speaker, Mikko Odido, and they're related to WASCAL. So the first question is WASCAL linked to any world data center or global database? And the second is, what is the time delay of meteorological data being archived in WASCAL? So if I could hand over back to our first speaker to answer those 2 questions briefly, that would be great. Dr. Diallo? Is he still with us? I'm trying to check if he's here.
No, it seems like he's not here anymore.
Not here anymore. Okay, so we could maybe take those questions offline and send them to him and make contact back with the participant again. I see there's another question. How can WASCAL and NIMR collaborate? I'm not sure if that's perhaps something Juliet would like to comment on. In the absence of other speakers. Juliet, can I hand back to you?
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yes, please, can you come again with your question?
The question's in the chat, and the question is, how can WASCAL and NIMR collaborate?
Okay, yeah. There's a possibility, and WASCAL and NIMR have some mandates that are similar. Both NIMR and WASCAL research into do some into oceanographic. We research in the oceanographic environment, Gulf of Guinea. So we can collaborate in the area of biological, observing ocean observatory and biological assessments, physical and chemical, as well as meteorological data. Yes, we have a common mandate. And both of us research into the Gulf of Guinea. So collaboration, yeah, we have a common interest. So.
Great, thank you very much. I think that gives quite a bit of clarification on common mandates and how cooperation might take place. Second part of today, which is on marine data sharing. And we have 2 speakers in this session. The first is Mikko Odido. Some background to Mikko is that he started his career as a researcher at the Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute in Mombasa, where he focused on ocean dynamics and modeling of coastal processes. Other positions he has held at the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of UNESCO include coordinator for the Ocean Data and Information Network for Africa, ODIN Africa, and coordinator for the regional programs of IOC's International Oceanographic Data and Information Exchange Program, IODE. He will be making a presentation on the vision for Africa's role in the UN Ocean Decade. And this presentation will provide some information on the Ocean Decade Roadmap for Africa, which was launched during the African Conference on Priority Setting and Partnership Development for the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, month of May 2022. It was a hybrid meeting with some physical presence in Cairo, Egypt. So Mikko, over to you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Lucy. Can you see my screen?
Yes, but it's not in presentation mode yet. That looks
No.
good. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd like to first of all thank you for giving me the opportunity to share information on the UN Ocean Decade. The decade was proclaimed by the UN General Assembly to run from 2021 to 2030 to provide the knowledge system needed for policy and action to achieve a global ocean supporting sustainable development by 2030 and beyond. In planning for the decade in Africa, we have taken into account that coastal and ocean waters in Africa are increasingly gaining importance as a potential source of economic growth and employment. And we've also been alive to the fact that we should have clear links and synergies with other regional frameworks. For example, the AU declared the Decade of African Seas and Oceans to run for 2025. And the AU also has an Agenda 2063, which recognizes the ocean economy as one of the drivers for development in the region. We've also have the 2050 Africa Integrated Maritime Strategy and the African Blue Economy Strategy, which provide roadmaps on how to achieve development of the ocean economy in the region. Some of the key reasons of concern that made us work on developing a decade roadmap for Africa was first the underrepresentation of African organizations in the endorsed actions from the first call of actions. One key gap was that if you look at all the for the ocean decade, none of them is led by an African institution. And if you look at the decade projects that have been endorsed, only 10 are led by African organizations. And if you, in total, if you look at the others that they are participating in, only 13 that the African institutions are participating in. And only 4 countries in the region have so far established national decade committees. That's Angola, Cape Verde, Madagascar, and Nigeria, out of 37 coastal countries. So you can see that so far the participation of Africa in the implementation and planning for the decade has not really been that active. And that's one of the reasons why we worked on developing a roadmap to see how we can improve the participation of African institutions and countries in the ocean decade. Of the decade projects that have so far been approved, the 10 of them from Tanzania, from Mauritius, from South Africa, Nigeria, Cape Verde, and Morocco. Those are the only countries that so far have decade projects that have been approved. The aim of the roadmap is to provide a vision and plan for diverse stakeholders from government, industry, philanthropy, UN agencies, civil society, and scientific community to convene around a common set of priorities for implementation of the ocean decade in Africa. I've provided the URL where you can download the roadmap, but I'll share the URL again in the chat at the end of the presentation. In preparing the roadmap, we've had a series of meetings, beginning with our national regional consultation held here in Nairobi in January 2020, a regional gap analysis that we undertook in collaboration with WIOMSA, the Western Indonesian Marine Science Association, towards the end of last year, and a series of workshops at the beginning of this year, where we looked at the results of the regional gap analysis, which were then played this month at the launch in Cairo. Some of the things that came up during the consultations related to data was one, the need for an improved focus on user-driven data, challenges in data sharing, lack of standard policies in relation to open access data, technical capacity and resource limitations, and lack of trust between organizations to share data. We also had several proposals during the consultations on what is to be done as related to data in the region. And you'll see that when we come to the proposed actions in the roadmap, all of this are actually be taken into account. First of all, in developing the roadmaps, we identified priority gaps and needs. Under each of the ocean decade challenges, there are 10 challenges that have been identified for the decade. The challenge number 8 especially focuses on data, thus creating a digital reserve of the ocean. The scope of the challenges relevant to Africa was one, digital representation of the ocean, mapping of the ocean floor in Africa, including dynamic ocean map. And the gaps that were identified were need for training, data collection analysis, inadequate common platform for data sharing, need to better manage, develop, and transfer know-how within the contributing research communities. You'll be able to get all this in detail in the gap analysis when you download it. Then for each of the priorities identified, we looked at what actions do we need to develop to be able to address the gaps. And the action number 7, digital twin for Africa, establishing an ocean African knowledge hub, is particularly relevant for our discussions today. If you go to the roadmap, you'll find detailed description of what the action involves. You can see it on the screen also, number 7. I'll not go through it because you'll be able to go through it once you get the roadmap. Some of the other issues that were highlighted was the need for capacity development, equitable and inclusive partnership, gender and indigenous local knowledge, resource mobilization, and coordinated and effective implementation of the roadmap. We are in the coming week going to send out a call for nominations for membership of a regional task force, which will support the development of activities to implement the ocean decade in the region based on the roadmap. I think I'll end it at that, and I'll be available for questions at the end of the presentations of this session. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Mika, for the overview. That was very useful, I think, for us all to consider. The next speaker in this session is Elegbede, who has a doctorate degree in environmental science with an interest in marine resources, sustainability, and data innovations. He is a lecturer at the Brandenburg University of Technology, Germany, also the deputy chair of IUCN CEESP TGR Switzerland, and also a fellow of the Future Earth Coast in Bremen, Germany. He's a director of research, innovations and development at SIO Global, where he manages and implements various projects. He has a wealth of interdisciplinary background and experience in digital solutions to environmental resources, including using quantitative and qualitative data for evaluation. And he'll be presenting to us on data inclusivity for Africa. Over to you.
Yeah, can you see my screen? Yes, can you see my screen? Sorry?
Yes, you can. If you could just go into, there we go.
Lucy, it's nice to be here today, and I would like to thank the organizers of this program for the opportunity to talk about Africa and the need for growth in terms of data sharing and data management. Like it has been said, I am based in Germany and as well working as an astral researcher also in Nigeria. Now, based on the outline, I'll be talking about the challenges affecting data inclusivity, marine data sharing, and how we can have a data sharing framework for Africa and looking at the African Union Digital Transformation Strategy. Thanks to Dr. Meka for the roadmap and things, and the roadmap as well will fit into to this discussion. Yeah, background. It's not against saying that that's are sourced from living and non-living components of the aquatic ecosystem, not only marine, however, to other kinds of water systems. And marine data inclusivity talks about the involvement of all through human rights, gender equity and equality, community engagement, and having traditional participation, including indigenous, to work together in the context of citizen science on how to use data adequately. And this links to understanding the value of data chain, especially talking about change for Africa for sustainable development. Now, the issues that we have, that despite the huge amount of resources we have in Africa, aquatic resources, there are still issues concerning poverty, hunger, and mismanagement of these resources. And these are coordinated resources management, and unsustainability in terms of practices, and mainly data deficits and stewardship, which has been one of the main reasons why some problems are still dwelling. And the need to, once data issues has been tackled, it is possible that other challenges affecting marine and ocean resources will be tackled. Now, before we talk about inclusion or inclusivity, we need to talk about exclusions. So these are people that are possibly affected by exclusions in terms of the use of marine data. Number one, we have some coastal communities that probably might not be literate and might not have access to some of these institutes and research bodies that we have. And also some people that might want to use ocean data, probably they might be disabled. However, small scale enterprise that are in Africa that might also use ocean or marine data for their business or to advance their economic benefit. Then likewise, old people, because some of them might not be versatile with technology. So these are possible people that are affected by marine data exclusions and connected with Africa. Now, looking at technological or digital access by gender, education, and income, you can see, based on what World Bank reports, so you can see that Africa, amongst Africa, we realize that there are more male versus female. And looking at Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, Senegal, South Africa, and Tanzania, you could see that, for example, in terms of male versus female, we have more male having access to data in Ghana. And also talking about age-wise, we realize that South Africa, based on the World Bank reports on digital access, South Africa has more access to data in terms of age. Then talking about people that do not have education, you can see that Kenya is also rated as one of the people that have access to education, secondary education. Then talking about household income, averagely, so people with high household income they have access to data mainly in South Africa. Now, issues on marine data sharing for Africa. Now, it's also relevant to talk about the initiative, these issues concerning marine data information sharing, and which are not visible to stakeholders. Some of these data are there, some are there in papers, publications, in research repositories. However, they are not highly accessible or visible to all stakeholders, the stakeholders communities. And also, it is possible that some of these data and stakeholders do not harmonize this data that it will be used for the people. And lastly, the data might be available. However, how do users benefit and how do they use it for their benefit, their economic benefit, their marine activity, for fisheries, for navigation, and all other activities linked to the blue economy. Now, talking about marine sharing, marine data sharing, it is important to sharing must be established as a focal point, unless the issue of privacy and the rest are constraints. And it is important for adequate sharing of data in Africa that there are standards to allow the public, the stakeholders to have access to it. And it's also possible, it's also important that the government must be ready to take responsibilities to assist the common ocean users to be able to access and to be able to use the data for their benefit. And also, those data should be adequately used in decision making. And importantly, it is ready to support researchers, like Dr. Juliet said from Nigeria. There's need to give researchers support, marine users, on how they can use this data, they can create data, they can share this data, and they can be accessible to the public. And they need to promote transparency in traceability, for example, in the seafood industry. There's need to look about data in terms of fisheries, both for small scale and the commercial fisheries. Now, an inclusivity framework that I was able to adapt from Belgrade 2021 that could be also be relevant for data inclusion for Africa. Talking about the government and the private sector. Now, the private sector entails all non-governmental factors. Now, number one is accessibility. Now, accessibility for private sector, for non-governmental sector, the aspect of telecom needs to be universal. Aspect of technology needs to be universal. There's need for support to have for local communities and even researchers, academics, or people that are in the industry to have access to all this technology. And likewise, for the government organization, there's need to also support, have funds, support to create this data, or to have support in ways where stakeholders will be able to create this data, and those data will be used for decision making. Then in terms of affordability, how do we make data to be free and also to be able to be accessed by the public in terms of connecting and talking about the financial challenge we, the government, should be able to solve. Then the ability to actively give support in terms of capacity, like somebody also said previously that there is need for capacity in terms of literacy and skills for everyone, and be able to give awareness to the public, to ocean users, both the bottom and the top users, of the awareness on the use of data. I know Mekato is doing a lot. Fidodo is here with, and they are doing a lot in terms of how African users will be able to use ocean data. And as well, the aspect of attitude, having security of the framework of the infrastructure, data infrastructure, and having the attitude of reporting for all stakeholders. Now, talking about, apart from that, there's need to look at the African Union Digital Transformation Strategy, which I think this will also be relevant and to be linked to what Dr. Odido speaker said. And with the Ocean Decade Roadmap, there's need to link it up with the EU Digital Transformation Strategy. And the major factor of this strategy is to talk about integration and inclusion of the digital society and the economy of Africa in order to improve the quality of African citizens. In linking this to marine data or marine data access or sharing, we realize that there is need for inclusivity for all to be involved in order to enhance our economy in Africa. And this now talks about three main factors, that is connecting stakeholders and Africans in terms of innovation, then also talking about citizen participation in governance and be able to have methods that will be innovative and be engaging in use of and sharing of the data. Then lastly, to be able to support implementing policy from various countries that will directly be linked to the African continent. Now, the outcome would be that for data sharing or to have active data benefit for Africans, it is important that no one should be left behind, which is one of the key concepts of the Decade of Action. And with true active engagement of data collection, sharing through citizen science or citizen engagement, this is very key. I will be glad to support in the digital twin for Africa hub to see how we can work on this. Then likewise to connect between bottom top and top bottom. All this discussion we are making should not only be limited to people like this. We should find situations whereby the low income, the fishermen, the fishers can also be integrated into discussion like this, whereby they're able to understand the value of data, the value of using that data for their academics, for their fishing activities, to bring it down to their low language. And also, Sustainable Development Goal Decade of Action and also appraise the value of data inclusivity, which is crucial through a marine data life cycle and value chain. So with the Decade of Action, there's need for inclusivity, incentiveness and the use of innovative technologies with satellites, artificial intelligence, and all these technologies should be accessible to people in terms of collecting data, research, monitoring, and enforcement. Then also to promote open sharing, transparency in accessing marine data. Then scaling up integrated local to global observation through local participation with local and non-local engagement for better decision making. And there is need for capacity building to exchange information, to have collaboration and transfer of knowledge in terms of technology. And lastly, to be able to fill gaps in creating and sharing information for users in Africa. And in conclusion, there's benefit in sharing data, especially marine data, in order to have inclusivity, to enhance economic, social, and environmental growth in the continent. And data inclusion, I must say, is important for Africa with the vast resources, biodiversity, and economic value and as well to be able to connect all individuals. And with this is also important, we must say this, there's need to harness global north with support from the global to the global south. And this is as a matter of urgency in combining local, traditional, and scientific knowledge in a way to promote ocean marine data sharing. So on this note, thanks so much, and I'll be glad to respond further on the question and answer section. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for that great presentation covering marine data services and inclusivity for Africa. Very interesting, and that covered issues around data sharing, availability and usability to the next decade. So thank you very much. That's ended the speakers on a very good note. Are there any questions for the last two speakers? If you'd like to raise your hand or put the questions into the chat. In the meantime, I see there is one more question for Juliet in the chat. And that question is, does Nehemiah work with the University of Lagos in terms of developing biological data standards? Juliet,
thank you very much for that question. Yes, thank you very much for that question. Yes, Nehemiah works collaborates with University of Lagos Marine Sciences Department for development of biological, physical, and chemical data. There's for now there's a plan on the way for Nehemiah and Marine Sciences University of Lagos to collaborate in the area of publishing research data, the area of floating an academic journal that will be publishing research findings of Nehemiah and Marine Sciences University of Lagos. So we collaborate very well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Juliet, for taking that question. We have another question for Mika. And the question for Mika is, how could we better include or merge the roadmap for Africa with the roadmap for the all-Atlantic data space? And Chikana, I'll come to you next. Thanks. Mika?
I think that's something that it would really be useful to discuss. I've not had a look at the roadmap for the all-Atlantic data space. Maybe if you could share that, then I could go through it and then see what would be the possible entry points for collaboration. But definitely, that's really something that we should explore.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mika. I think that would be also a good idea, good action to take forward. Chikana, over to you.
Thank you, Lucy. And thank you so much for Juliet for answering that question. I just wanted to find out, or maybe let me preface this statement by saying Nehemiah is an important stakeholder for AfroBIS, which is the sub-Saharan node of OBIS. And I just wanted to find out if they still do publish their biogeographic data through AfroBIS IPT. And the second question being, is there a need to sort of coordinate a regional data management? And if that is true, is that something that we can facilitate or this platform or this community can facilitate to assist in terms of data management skills and training?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, Nehemiah, just like I mentioned in my while presenting, Nehemiah still publishes, and most of our publications are deposited in OceanDoc. So for now, we're making our research findings known globally through OceanDoc for now. That's what we're doing. And for training, yes, Nehemiah is involved in training. Training, just I said it where during my presentation, we still train our scientists, ocean scientists. We train both aquaculturists, we train physical oceanographers, biological oceanographers, and chemical oceanographers. Yes. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Yes, and also, sorry to come in, and also in addition to that, NEWMA is working with A Center on ocean observation data management, and probably in the next few months, they're going to be organizing a program, and it will be announced publicly.
Thank you, Juliet, and thank you, Isa. I appreciate the response.
Sorry, Chikana, and also it will also be nice to see how we can facilitate a program that you've said through this platform between NEWMA and probably regional engagement. That will also be a good one. We can also discuss about that.
Great.
I support it. Thank you.
Great.
Great. That'll be good.
Good. I see a hand raised by Patricia. Patricia.
Hello. So it's just more a comment and a question for Chikana about AAODS. So we are collecting, I'm representing here Mission Atlantic project, which is collecting, more than collecting new data, is producing a lot of new data products in different areas in the Atlantic. So for Africa, there is the case study South Bengala. So it's a lot of data from, especially from South Africa, like Zambi, maybe the data managers from South Africa that we're presenting today are more familiar to this institute. But anyway, my question is for in AAODS, do you also have a data products catalog? Do you present as well the data products, or do you just well, not just, but do you also manage, do you only manage a data set, new data sets?
Thank you so much, Patricia. As it stands, AAODS just coordinate data from sub-Saharan countries and facilitate publishing open access of those data. However, in some cases, some countries may share or want to publish data products, but at the moment, they're mainly data. There's only data that we have. We do not have data products that the member countries wants to publish through AAODS. But that's something that we would like to explore given the opportunity.
If we have any new data that especially, where I'm work, we also manage AAODS. So we have the same format. We use Darwin Core for biological data. So if there is anything that can flow to AAODS, I will definitely contact you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So thanks for that useful intervention. Are there any more questions from participants or from speakers related to the last two sessions? And if not, I can't see any hands raised.
Maybe
Yes.
I could just make a final remark. Like I say, we'll be sending out a call for membership of the regional task team for the Ocean Decade. And when selecting the members of the task team, we'll be looking at representation of different thematic areas. And it would be useful if you could get some people who are working on data issues to join the task team so that they can be able to drive the specific aspects of the decade in the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikko. That would be very useful. Good. Okay, so the next session that we're moving towards is for a panel discussion. And we have two questions to guide the panel that is made up of Chikana, Claire, Pericles, Juliet, Othman, and Carmen, if Carmen's with us. So we have our panel, and we have two questions that I'd like to put to our panelists, as well as to encourage perhaps some also from participants here today. So I'll state the first question, and then we'll go panelist by panelist. And then if you could put your cameras on, if you're able to, while you speak, that would be great. And this is in the context of hearing some of the themes from the speakers earlier today. The first question, or the first comment to drive some discussion, is how do the African Marine Data Services also benefit the All-Atlantic community? And what are the next steps for regional engagement across the Atlantic Ocean basin? So I'd like to call on Chikana to perhaps start off with some thoughts on that, and then we'll go to the rest of the panelists. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Lucy, for that opportunity. In fact, let me start with the first question, which deals with how the African Marine Data Services also benefit the All-Atlantic community. Over and above the provision of transparent and accessible high-quality data and information, there's also an element of exchange of knowledge, research, innovation, and infrastructure that the Marine Data Services, African Marine Data Services, can contribute towards. But this obviously requires sort of a change of mindset, cultural mindset that promotes open sharing, because the difficulty that we currently face in Africa is that a lot of people don't want to share the data. So it is incumbent on Marine Data Services to become advocates and proponents for open sharing the data, and emphasizing the need and the benefits of sharing the data across the Atlantic Ocean data space. And this goes to the second question, that what will be the next steps? Obviously, we need to harmonize regional data standards so that we allow cross-platform sharing and harvesting of metadata, and ensuring that data interoperability is ensured, and that our data shared across the Atlantic Ocean data space is compliant with the FAIR principle. And there was another element that we need to look at, which is capacity building in terms of data management skills, which is needed across the I'll call it the East Atlantic Ocean, which is the African side, where we need to conduct training in terms of managing this large data that our marine data services are handling, and agreeing on regional data standards, which will obviously improve data sharing, and also looking at, how can I say, establishing and identifying marine data and metadata of interest that will respond to the call of the UN Ocean Decade of Science for Sustainable Development from the African perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Chikana. Claire, would you like to add to that?
So I think Chikana actually summarized my points very well.
Mine was all about data standards, so making sure that we are all using the same data standards, so to facilitate interoperability as well as data sharing, and then to reinforce the parts about facilitating learning and capacity building. So a lot of the times, even the instrumentation that is being used to collect data, there's a very few people that actually know how to use that instrumentation to collect that data. So it's not really about the data services side, but also about how do we capacitate young students, young researchers, and actually to go out into the field and collect those measurements and use the instrumentation.
Thank you very much, Claire. Good points there. Pericles? I think you're on mute. If you could unmute yourself. Still muted. Perhaps then we could just move to Juliet quickly and then come back to Pericles.
Thank you for the question. Having high quality data is vital in Africa. With over states, coastal and island states, high quality data is vital in order for us to have knowledge in Africa, knowledge about what is happening in the marine ecosystem. With having knowledge of this data, we help to support the economy and conservation. With the devastating effects happening in the marine industry, like oil spills, coastal erosion, all the threats, pollution, and various hazards that are posing threats and risk to human life, to safety, and destruction of properties. Having knowledge and open data, having knowledge of what is happening in the environment through information and data will help to curtail such hazards and also to support life and protect properties. Example is if knowledge of or data about wave or tide is known, we'll be able to mitigate or know on time information on, let's say, tsunami. We'll be able to know or predict what major hazards that can come up and then mitigate it. So open data access is vital to the communities in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juliet. And then I'd like to turn to Othman.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. Well, as part of the youth, one of the things that I built my speech on is the investment in youth. Youth, most African country now is one of the countries that has a continent that has a large number of youth, and we base that on cooperation. So maybe we should invest on e-cups, early career professionals in Africa, and just give them the infrastructure, the knowledge, and everything they need just to collaborate and improve the whole African marine data or the whole African marine services. And based on the community, it feels like we need to collaborate as part of the regional side, just collaborate as part of the north side of Africa, the south side of Africa, the whole African countries, and just move out and try to spread out our reach and move to the northern part of the ocean, southern part of the ocean, and connect. And it's very known now that we are facing the same difficulties at getting data or acting with data. So collaborating and connecting with each other with the right moment for investment on youth will be the best option for us. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Othman. Are there any contributions from the floor? We've had some very good points coming out so far from the panel. These include advocacy is really important for data sharing. It's important to harmonize data standards. Capacity development and learning is an ongoing need. Investment in youth and the need for open and timely access to data. Do we have any more contributions? Either raise your hands or put them in the chat. And if not, we'll go to the second part of the panel discussion, and that is to discuss some examples of experiences, best practices, and user needs from Atlantic marine data initiatives, including Africa and the wider Atlantic community. I'd like to start again with the panel and then ask for some additional contributions from the floor. So if we could start again with Chekana for your perspectives on that one.
Thank you once again, Lucy. How do I preface this one? I'm going to use the South African's marine information management system as a case study, or rather a classic example of how a marine data service responds to the user requirements and the needs to safeguard sustainability, stewardship of the Atlantic Ocean data space. So as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, that through hosting AfroBase and making sure that biological data standards are complied with, we're able to share with our regional and international stakeholders without any difficulty, because the standards have been developed and continues to be developed. So some of the steps that we undertook when the South African Marine Information looking at community best practice, this involved interaction with our regional research institutes, our marine users, and government and non-governmental departments and institutes that have the same, they've got the same sort of intentions and usage of the ocean data space. So we developed those community best practices and standards which were geared towards or which were driven by the user requirements. I'll give an example. We do have on the West Coast, we do have the problem on the West Coast of South Africa, where we've got problems with red tides, red tide events that often leads to loss and walkouts of South African's rock lobster. And our data from the MIMS, South African MIMS, often is used by fisheries managers to attend to such problems, and also to other people in the industry to use that data, addressing the requirements of the users. Secondly, we, in terms of contributing to the international community. A lot of our data earlier this year, especially looking at the PCO2 data contribution to the ocean acidification efforts, was submitted to the UN and was formed part of the UN annual report. And that was our contribution to the global effort. So in terms of the regional efforts, we work closely with the Benguela Current Commission, which is a commission between South Africa, Angola, and Namibia. We share the southwest part of Africa, and we are connected by the Benguela Current large marine ecosystem, which we know is one of the most productive region in the world. And we're working together in terms of developing regional data standards. They are currently developing another data geoportal, which will obviously allow sharing with MIMS and other regional data services, but without duplicating some of the work that MIMS has already gone towards. So once again, this is geared towards addressing user requirements across the Atlantic, and also attending to problems that affect the Southwest, which is food security and job creation. And through this data services, we are able to address that, because a lot of data and research work that has been done on the southwest coast of Africa, that information is shared through MIMS, and we are able to attend to marine fisheries resource. In a nutshell, I think that's what I wanted to address in terms of the questions that was raised. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Takana. And that was a very useful contribution too. Next, I'll hand over to Claire for some additions. I'm not sure if we still have Claire with us. If there's a bit of a delay, so let's hand over to Pericles. If he could unmute. And if not, we'll go straight back to Juliet.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much, Lucy. Best practices involve aspects of ocean observing. Ocean observing, from research to data products. And these data products should be relevant, peer-reviewed, and of high quality. So one example is the ability of using the, just like I said, the temperature, sea surface temperature, to be able to predict upwelling situations and upwelling zones, to be able to know when which are zones upwelling, which are zones of high biological productivity. So when data is high quality and peer reviewed, it will have credibility, integrity, and it will be able to give information and knowledge on the situations of the ocean environments, which will be used by researchers, scientists, policy makers in decision making. Another example is the tidal and the navigational data that are bathymetric data that are being used by the maritime industry and the Navy in Nigeria to be able to monitor, navigate, and also the fishery statistics data that are being used by the government in making and regulatory agencies in making decisions, informed decisions that will favor even the artisanal fishermen and the communities, coastal communities. So best practices should be used while in ocean observing in order to get credible data for making informed decisions by policymakers, researchers, and scientists, and even the general public. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we also have an additional contribution from Chicano, which says sharing of data is important, but these need to be scientifically qualified to increase usability, which I think reinforces also what Juliet's saying. Then I'd like to hand over to Othman for another perspective.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. So one of the best practices I've been around since I've been part of the All Atlantic Ocean Youth Ambassadors is the existence of many other, like Copernicus, EMODNet, Blue Cloud, Cyan. These are well known to collaborate and cooperate with many of us as data needing scientists. And the fact that universities always has access to data, but we need to just have more usable data, more clean data. We need to collaborate. Some of us need special data, some of us need more specific data. And we need to create these collaborations from the start, from the start on the ground as universities, and move it up to maybe collaborate between youth, collaborate between infrastructure, and a lot of things. And my second point is creating also some kind of a network of youth that needs data to collaborate, to do such things. And as I said, I'm honored to be part of the All Atlantic Ocean Youth Ambassadors, a network that gathers and with a lot of background, meaning we can collaborate, we can innovate, and we can connect with each other and have more perspective as we need. So this is also one of the things that we need, is have some ECOPS network and collaborate and aid us together to move forward and to have more of a wider vision through the data of the All Atlantic, because as we've been saying, it's not only an African data, it's the All Atlantic Ocean data, or it's the world data. It's our data. It's not for us to use it and hide it. It's for everyone to use it and use it.
Thank you very much, Othman. Those are encouraging words. So from our panelists, we've had a number of themes. These include some examples, including best practices having been driven by user requirements, which was very important. The importance of and relevance of high quality data in order to have credibility in communities and among user groups, as well as the importance of collaboration between institutions. So I'd like to just open the discussion back to the panelists, as well as all of the participants here today, either for sharing further examples of best practices, or maybe sharing some user needs from marine initiatives from Africa and the All Atlantic community. Are there any user needs that people would like to share? Either in the chat or raise your hand would work.
Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon. I've been struggling. I've been listening to the conversations, and unfortunately, I've not been able to raise my hand or put anything on the chat box. And my name is Grace, and I'm talking to you from the Eastern Cape Province in South Africa, from Walter Sisulu University.
Great. Thanks, Grace. Go ahead.
I'm sorry for that. I can't raise my hand. I cannot use the chat. It's been.
I think you might be muted. If you could unmute yourself and carry on.
What I was saying is that I've not been able to contribute meaningfully because of the problem I had, and I didn't want to interrupt. But otherwise, that is what I wanted to raise. Thank you. I hope tomorrow things will be okay.
Thank you, Grace. Do you have any perhaps experiences or best practices to share, or reflections on any user needs?
Because most of my research has been inland. Although recently in my institution, we have created research niche areas, and one of them is collecting data from both freshwater, inland, and marine environments. And that was the reason why I joined the meeting, so that I can learn from the experts and see how I can engage our postgraduate students in also engaging in this type of research, data acquisition, and storage, and sharing of data. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much,
But
Grace.
thank you all for the great talks. I really enjoyed all of them, and the discussions as well.
Super, thanks very much. Any more contributions from participants? Mikko?
Okay, well, one thing that I wanted to highlight is that one of the main reasons that limits the sharing of data is where experts have not been able to make use of their data. Maybe analyze and publish from the data. And to address this, it would be important to look at possibilities of supporting them through either providing tools or training on developing publications using the data. Otherwise, many would fear that when they share their data without that, somebody will tell a story from the data before they are able to do so.
Thanks, Mikko. That's a useful intervention. I know some projects have supported capacity development just in terms of time and tools for people to develop joint papers. So that is probably something that could be looked at as a tool. Any further contributions? Sukana?
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity, Lucy. Just to add on, maybe this will be somehow deviating from the topic at hand, but with my experience and the interaction with some of our African countries, is that we find that there's a lot of data that was collected on hard copy back in the days. This is historical data that was never digitized. So in terms of looking at data rescue initiatives to digitize this data, I think there's still a bit of capacity training or capacity development in that regard that it's needed to make sure that such hard copy data sets are digitized and published to the broader scientific community. And I think there's a great value in that data. It's all data. Some of them were during the colonial state of Africa. So such information will provide some help in terms of the climate time series that we may need for future prediction. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So very useful intervention. I think Odin Africa supported some data rescue activities in the past, and this is definitely something that's still needed, especially to access, as you mentioned, those historical climate records, for example, or in situ records that we can't go back and collect again. Juliet, would you like to say something?
I just have to.
I think you're on mute. If you could unmute yourself.
Okay, there should be open access to data. There should be more of collaboration among African countries, more of to avoid duplicating data. There should be open access, a data bank that will be easy and accessible for everybody that needs it. So data should be made open, like that, yeah. For
okay,
easy accessibility, yes.
Promoting
Among African countries and for the global global needs. And also that communities, local coastal communities should also be involved. Local communities might have some data that have not been, that are not known to the scientific community, but by the time they're integrated into this data gathering forum, they will share their data. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Julia. It's also important points of encouraging more open access of data and presumably metadata in those areas where data can't be shared yet, and also involving communities, promoting the sharing of indigenous knowledge where possible. Thank you. Any more hands or some more contributions? We are reaching the end of our session. So any final thoughts?
Yes, if I can, yes. I was just going to support the previous speaker on the issue of coastal communities and their involvement in data collection. It would be interesting also to acknowledge that when we are sharing data, we need also to share with the communities in a language or in a way that they would be able to understand and consume the information as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, locally specific languages and needs would be very important to consider. Thank you. Any more comments from the floor? Oh, Dr. Isa.
Yes, thanks so much. I would like to add that in as much as there's need to collect data, to share data, and as well, it is important for those data to follow proper procedures in terms of the life cycle pattern. And it is also important to see how local communities can be integrated through low-cost technologies. Because some of these technologies, for example, we're talking about collecting remote sensing data and the rest, probably with the roadmap for African decade, might talk about how can low technologies be accessible and available for low-income coastal communities. and the need for citizen science, adequate citizen engagement, then this goes to our research organizations, whereby majority of the researchers go to the field, to coastal communities to collect data. However, some do not even acknowledge them during the acknowledgement section of the paper. And during my engagement in Canada with working with the Mi'kmaq community in Nova Scotia, we realized it is important we have what you call the two-eyed seeing, merging indigenous knowledge and scientific knowledge, to be able to merge them together and to recognize them. It is important to recognize them because they are historic steward of these resources. Probably it can even be that in publications, we might even have their names apart from acknowledging them. So I think it is important to raise the bar from the bringing from the low bottom to bring up these communities so that they can as well feel relevant in contributing to development. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks very much. Very important points around acknowledging and valuing those contributions of local communities. Thank you. Any other hands? And if not, for the conclusion, I think before the closing, we have a conclusion given by Olga, but I'm not sure if Olga is with us.
Lucy, sorry, that's changed.
Okay, sorry.
So it's actually me, Olga's teaching.
Okay.
Maybe that
Great.
wasn't updated in time on the program. Okay.
Not a problem.
Yeah,
then
so
I'd
I'll
like to hand
quickly...
over to Nikki for the conclusion.
Yes, yeah, so it's me, Nikki, from the CSRR speaking. Sorry, I'll just be Olga for 5 minutes. So I just want to thank everyone so much for participating today. We've had such great presentations and we've had very interesting and insightful discussions. What really stuck with me is the need and the already strong efforts to boost Africa's participation in the UN Ocean Decade. So everything that's already being done, but still needs to be done around this as well. And I really liked Atman's contribution about all Atlantic data belonging to everyone and that everyone should use it and use it well. I thought that was very, very memorable and something for us all to take home. And then, of course, lots of thank yous. So to all the participants, all of you who participated, all the presenters, our panelists, thank you so much for your very excellent presentations and insights. Lucy, thank you. You were an excellent facilitator. I love how you just summarize things so concisely and beautifully. And then the organizing team as well, our AAODS 2030 team, and in particular Anna, who's such a jewel, and Caitlin, to you too from Sion for running the Zoom for us so well. So I just want to very briefly tell you what is happening now with the information from this webinar. As you may have seen when you registered, tomorrow we are actually going to look at producing a zero draft of the roadmap for the implementation of the All Atlantic Ocean data space. So if you have not registered for that yet and you'd still like to, you can, and you're very welcome to still register for that. It's going to be a very interactive event. We're going to have 3 working groups each working group will be discussing a particular aspect of the roadmap. And in the end, we'll come together and we'll try and integrate all those different contributions. So it's going to be super interactive and I think very interesting. And we're going to then take that forward to the All Atlantic Forum 2022 event, the scientific event, which will be held in Brasilia from the 31st of May to the 2nd of June. And I believe it's on the 1st of June that we're going to be taking these discussions forward. And and table them to the stakeholders there around the All Atlantic Ocean data space. So that's just a bit of food for thought for how we are proceeding with this from here on, but we'll certainly keep you in the loop. Thank you. Back to you, Lucy.
Thanks very much, Nikki. Thank you very much for explaining the process and putting it into context. A big thank you to all of the presenters today for the excellent presentation setting the scene, to the panelists for giving us some insight into their experiences and sparking some good discussion. I'd like to thank two organizations, particularly the CSIR and SCION, for supporting this process. Also, a very big thanks to Nikki for leading us through it and for facilitating this process as well. Then finally, I'd just like to wish all the participants good reflections on the information that was shared today. I think it was really useful and insightful, and to see you again tomorrow, refreshed and ready for the workshop. It will be the same time as today, 2 p.m. South African time, and look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you very much.
Thank you.